Now, earlier in the show, we discussed the 1619 Project. My next guest has written, Democrats have emphasized the necessity to teach all history in our country's classrooms. It's the product of left-wing propaganda to justify the existence of toxic ideologies such as critical race theory or much of the historical fiction associated with things like the 1619 Project. However, he writes, I agree with their claims, not so much their curricula. We should be teaching all of history in our schools. And one event that should be taught is what happened in New Orleans on March 14, 1891, end of quote. Please welcome back the Washington Examiner's Christopher Tremoli. Chris, okay, what happened on March 14, 1891?
Yes, what happened is possibly one of the single largest hate crimes in United States history that were never talked about. In New Orleans in 1891, there was a local police chief was killed, and it was suspected that the people that did it were of Italian American descent or Italian American, Sicilian, actually, to be specifically. And they were taken. The suspects were taken to trial. They were, exonerated from the trial, and the local citizens there believed that the trial was fixed. It was all part of a conspiracy that stemmed from Italians being in the mafia, and they wanted to take justice into their own hands. So they stormed the jail cell where the prisoners were being held. Roughed up, they killed, shot, a number of people that were there, the deputies that were protecting them, and dragged them out, and it killed the people that were suspected of killing the police chief and lynched them. And given all the recent talk about lynching and how, there were just bills passed within the past year to name lynching, making lynching illegal or whatever it was. It's just that it's kind of shocking that and some people, some studies that it is actually the largest single mass lynching in U.S. history, but you never hear about it. Hardly anyone ever knows about it. And it's, kind of shocking that, we're trying to be in an era when we talk about all the history, but yet this part is never really taught.
All right, Christopher, what is your theory about why it's not being taught?
Oh, that's an easy one. And my theory is because it was white people who were executed and lynched. And that doesn't come in with the narrative that the leftists try to create, in which the country was welcoming to all white people and every non-white person was subjected to racism, discrimination, killing, all that stuff, which, don't get me wrong, is true and did happen and was horrible. But there's no reason to not teach everything. I mean, this was something that happened because there was anti-immigrant sentiment, anti-Italian sentiment, and it goes to show that what we talk about today in the 21st century and in the latter half of the 20th century isn't necessarily factual and doesn't actually align with the historical facts of our country. Yes, we all know there was discrimination against non-white people. It was horrible. It was wrong. No one can deny that. But there are also incidents of like this one here in Louisiana, in New Orleans, about the lynching that are Italians that take place that doesn't really get any historical, scrutiny or attention or any media attention or anything like that. I would guarantee that if March 14th, 1891 was the date in which the single mass lynching occurred, in which it was non-white people, we would definitely be talking about it. There were, President Biden would come out and give a commemoration. There'd be a march and honoring, but it's a shame that it doesn't happen when the victims are Italian.
Right, the way Joe Biden weighed in on the Tulsa massacre. Was the lynch mob, Christopher, brought to justice?
No, not one of the people who did the lynching were never held accountable, never brought to justice. It is actually, and not only that, but from all of the research I did on the media accounts at that time, covered the incident favorably. It was only till recently the mayor of New Orleans issued an apology, I believe in 2018, 2019, issued an apology for what happened. But during her apology, she referred to it as anti-immigrant sentiment instead of like anti-Italian sentiment, which obviously still falls in line with the left-wing narrative of, xenophobia, U.S. is this horrible country and society. So even then, when they're still trying to correct the wrong, they're still trying to apologize, they're still, inducing left-wing, bias into it.
Now, Chris, we're in this era of reparations. Were reparations paid to the families of the people who were lynched?
No reparations were paid to any of the people that were lynched, unfortunately. So, and I don't think they're coming anytime soon.
Okay, now finally, Chris, I had never heard of this until I read your piece.
Exactly.
Is this something that is widely known in Italian American homes in America today?
No. Actually, I could give you say that my own family members didn't know. My dad did, and he's actually the one that told me about this years ago. There is I want to say somewhat of a movement that like social media pages dedicated to like Italian Americans or Italian American culture. Like there's an Instagram page called Stop Anti-Italianism that they posted about this on March 14th. Other Italian like podcasts, Italian American podcasts focusing on Italian American history and culture talked about this. But by and large, for the most part, it's not. I would say not as well known as many of the other instances of hate crimes in the country, and definitely not that well known in the Italian American community.
As far as you know, no book, no documentary, no movie.
No, everything I mean, there's been like accounts. I don't think there's any books published of it. Definitely no documentaries, no movies, anything like that. It's just like the same.
Well, Chris, when you get your book deal, since I've given you the idea, okay. I get 10%.
Sounds good, and I'll give you the forward of it.
10% to the big guy.
There you go.
Christopher Tremoli, Washington Examiner. Chris, as always, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Take care.
When we come back, some final thoughts and your calls. What's this? The great Aldersky has in his baby brown libertarian fingers a pair of my slippers. These are so comfortable, you're going to wonder why you never got them before. This one's tan, as you can see, but they come in different colors. And if you don't like this style, I don't imagine why, it looks like a 1957 T-bird, doesn't it? There's another style. Just call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. And this is the brand new, hot off the presses, MyPillow 2.0, even better than the MyPillow 1.0. 1.0 has been around for 20 years. Now there's new technology. 2.0, even better. Call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. By the way, there are over 100 products, including the 6-piece towel set. Towels that work, meaning these are towels that actually absorb the water. I don't know if you've noticed this. Go to these stores where they have these beautiful towels and nice colors and they feel fluffy and they smell good, but they don't work. They don't absorb. Isn't that the whole purpose of a towel? These absorb. The MyPillow towel set. Call the number on your screen or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code ELDER. Finally, this is the Giza Dream bedsheet. You've never slept on anything more comforting than the Giza Dream bedsheet. As you can see, mine is white because I am the black face of white supremacy, but you're not. You may want a different color. And they come in different sizes because guess what? Beds come in different sizes. Just call the number on your screen. Again, there are over 100 MyPillow products or go to MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. That's MyPillow.com, promo code ELDER. Remember when the federal judge tried to speak at Stanford and the Stanford law students shouted him down, even though the school has a specific disruption policy that forbids, quote, heckling or other forms of interruption, close quote, at events just like this. So the hapless professor turns to a dean to help, but the dean ended up lecturing him.
Yeah, and to this room, because you're asking into the room as well. Is that okay?
Associate Dean, what do you want to say?
The room will talk to you. She doesn't need your permission. Is that okay? Because you are also talking to the room. You asked for it.
Now, this took place around 10 minutes or so into his talk. He kept getting interrupted. He kept getting heckled. So finally he says, may I speak to a dean to restore order? And this woman appears. She's a dean. And watch how she restored order.
Administrator. She's an administrator. You just asked for an administrator in here.
You want a people chamber or do you want someone to get here?
Can I say something, Tim? Is that okay? Is that okay?
So you've invited me to speak here, and I'm being heckled nonstop. And I'm just asking for an administrator to sign.
That's an administrator.
So you invited me to speak. It was the Federalists that invited him, the Federal Law Society, Conservative Society, invited him to speak. A bunch of students showed up who clearly are not members of this society and did not let the man speak. So he says, can I please have a dean or an administrator to restore order? And this woman who is a dean and an administrator shows up, and watch what happens.
Your racism is showing.
Did you hear that, student? Your racism is showing. One guy even said, boring. Your racism is showing.
Wait,
Respect black women.
if you want a marketplace of ideas, you have gotten what you wanted, take it. Like, do you want an echo chamber? What's the issue?
Can I help?
I guess I have prepared remarks, but
And I want you to be able
they're not
I
letting
want
me
you to be
get.
able to get prepared.
Go.
Okay.
Yes, please.
And I had to write something down because I'm so uncomfortable up here. And I don't say that for sympathy. I just say I'm deeply, deeply uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable because this event is tearing at the fabric of this community that I care about and I'm here to support.
I'm very uncomfortable to be up here. I'm so uncomfortable because what's happening here is tearing the fabric of this community that I so love. What's tearing the fabric of the community? You mean this professor, this judge, appellate judge, is invited, shows up, you don't like his positions, you don't like what he stands for, and you're shouting him down, and you feel uncomfortable because he dared show up and give his point of view? Again, Stanford Law School, one of the finest law schools in the country. Be afraid, very afraid.
And I don't know, and I have to ask myself, and I'm not a cynic to ask this, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Is the juice worth the squeeze? Meaning, Judge, is it worth your showing up and giving your opinion since you're upsetting all these fine people? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Well, there's a follow-up. Stanford issued an apology. The law students now have to undergo mandatory training to respect the freedom of speech rights of others. Law students having to undergo mandatory training to respect free speech. And the administrator, the one you just saw, has been given an administrative leave. Don't know with or without pay. The law school said it will hold a, quote, mandatory half-day session in the spring quarter for all students on the topic of freedom of speech and the norms of the legal profession, end of quote. So Stanford Law holds a mandatory session so Stanford Law students learn to respect something known as free speech. So I guess there's hope. Now, check out what the late, great Robin Williams said about Joe Biden. And this is when Joe Biden was in much better cognitive condition than now.
We still have comedy, though. We still have great comedy out there. There's always rambling Joe Biden. What the Joe says that even people with Tourette's go, no. No. What is going on? Joe is like your uncle who's on a new drug and hasn't got the dosage right. I'm proud to work with Barack America. He's not a superhero, you idiot. Come here. When FDR was on television, there was no TV back then. Come here, Joe. Sit down.
I wonder what Mr. Williams will be saying now. Now, about the possibility that Trump may be indicted and arrested for the $130K paid to porn star Stormy Daniels, I was and remain doubtful that an indictment and arrest are imminent. This is what Trump lawyers said to Sean Hannity.
Again, the grand jury proceeding is the DA's proceeding. It's not a joint proceeding. It's something that they use as a mechanism to bring a charge. It's a formality for the most part. But we don't know what's going on. But I can tell you there appears to be chaos in that office right now, as there should be, because the Manhattan District Attorney's Office was once the pinnacle of prosecutor's office in this country. Now it's something that's being used as a political tool. And when I see the justice system and a prosecutor's office being used to weaponize the justice system against an individual, it makes me sick to my stomach. As a former prosecutor, I could never have imagined this.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind that when Bragg came in, he decided to end the investigation against Donald Trump. That prompted two of the DAs to resign, one of whom wrote a book. And then all of a sudden, Bragg has had second thoughts and apparently is considering indicting and arresting Donald Trump. We'll keep you posted on how that works out. Robert Smigel is an actor, comedian, writer, director, producer, and puppeteer known for his Saturday Night Live TV Funhouse cartoon. This is part of a conversation he had with another SNL alum, Dana Carvey, about comedy today versus comedy back in the 1990s.
What's different about political comedy now than when I was doing Bush in the 90s?
Oh, because right now political comedy almost always takes a strong side one way or the other, and it didn't back then. Saturday Night Live almost went out of its way back then to not be strident in one direction or another. And now it feels like you almost have to be, because the audiences are so fragmented, right?
Yeah, they're in their corner.
Like they don't even want, like shows don't even want to attract everybody. They just want to get passionate followers.
Right.
You know, like I did a Triumph piece in 2016.
Dog with a cigar.
The dog with, yeah. So I did one where there was a focus group about, I fooled a focus group about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. First I did one that was all about Trump with fake commercials that we were pretending Trump wanted to do that were absurd, and the focus group Trump supporters liked it. It was a huge viral hit. Then I did another one where it was half Trump and half Hillary, just as funny. It got nothing because nobody wanted to share it, because their candidate was being made fun of too.
Well, that's sort of true about this business about, at one time, SNL in the 1990s wanted everybody to laugh. Remember when Chevy Chase admitted that he wanted Gerald Ford to be defeated by Jimmy Carter in 1974 and mocked Gerald Ford to achieve that end? Even Ford later admitted that the way he was mocked for falling down by SNL hurt his chances for re-election. And Chevy Chase admits that SNL has always had a left-wing slant.
After a while, you just start writing the jokes and start doing it. So it's not that I could imitate him so much as I could do a lot of physical comedy, and I just made it. I just went after him, and I certainly. Obviously, my leanings were Democratic, and I wanted Carter in, and I wanted him out, and I figured, look, we're reaching millions of people every weekend. Why not do it?
Wait a minute. You mean to tell me that in the back of your mind you were thinking, hey, I want Carter, this guy, and I'm going to make him look bad?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
What do you think they're doing now? I mean, you think they were just doing this because Sarah's funny? No, I think that the show's very much more democratic and liberal oriented. That they're obviously more for Barack Obama than McCain.
You hear her say, "Wait a minute. Are you saying that you were going after a Republican?" He goes, "Yeah, of course I was. What do you think they're doing now?" This is 2008, and he admits that SNL wanted Obama over John McCain. Now, as far as SNL's comedy being fair and balanced, as to the claim that SNL was not political in the past,
never mind.
Now, I know you love the show, and given that, please hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get our subscriptions up. Give us more clout. And also scroll down a little bit and get on our mailing list to make sure that you get all of our videos and don't miss any. Because every now and then, for reasons that confound us, YouTube apparently has issues with our vids. To make sure you get every single one of them, get on our mailing list. Also, you see that donate button? Hit that. Throw a little something in the tip jar to make sure we can still give you hard-hitting, honest programming. Finally, Larry with Epoch.com, Larry with EPOCH.com. I am Larry Elder. This is the Larry Elder Show for Epoch Times. Remember, we've got a country to save. I'll see you next time.